For the Women Museum, Henriette Bacheli from Senegal, why feminism, gender equality must be present in our museums? It is because we need to tell our own stories. No one will do it, and we need to motivate the youth to continue the fight against the patriarchal system.
The current objective of the Women Museum in Mexico is the dissemination of a new culture of equality between women and men, promoting tolerance and respect for diversity. We believe that women's museums are important because they inspire, raise awareness, and empower present and future generations. We are important to society because we promote gender equality, creating more just and egalitarian communities. Greeting from Mexico.
The Women's Museum in Albania is a bridge connecting cultural heritage of women and their activism for human rights. The museum aims to discover and highlight the untold stories of Albanian women who have helped the nation throughout its history. This is done for the sake of strengthening the identity and personality of women, for the sake of gender equality, and as an investment for the education of the new generation.
For me, it is important that all genders can find their place in history. And my special concern is to rediscover the history of women that is seldom documented. When we go in search for traces, we encounter so many different women. They were scientists, inventors, doctors, businesswomen, artists, fighters of right, and of course, all-day heroines.
At Kvinnemuseet in Norway, we think women's museums are important because we convey history from women's perspective.
At the Women's Museum in Merano, Italy, we want to research the history and cultural heritage of women and make it visible and promote women's culture. One of our priorities is socio-political commitment, in which we campaign for a society with equal rights. We aim to achieve this primarily through women-specific exhibitions, educational work for young people and adults. Through international exchange and the worldwide networking of women's museums, we can speak about our common concerns. We can also support and strengthen women's museums in other countries.
Feminism and gender equality movements should have their own platform to narrate their struggles, their achievements, and even their losses about feminine story. So, a woman museum through art, through protest art, and by the position artists as activists can transnationally represent that which has and that which continues to happen in their countries regarding women's rights, the violation of women's rights, and women's resistance in working to access their right. This is the main goal of the Iranian Women's Movement Museum.
Women's museums are important since women's history and heritage often remain overlooked in agendas of mainstream museums. Therefore, one of the goals of Women's Museum Regional International Fürth Germany is to be a place where different women's voices can be acknowledged and heard.
We will never stop talking about violence against women in war zones all around the world. They are used as a weapon of war, with serious traumatic consequences for the victims. We want to make these crimes visible and stand up for justice.
At the Kvinnemuseet in Norway, we are committed to reflecting the diversity of women's perspectives in our exhibitions to make sure we tell the whole story of the fight for women's rights, past and present. Our goal with this exhibition at Kvinnemuseet is to tell the story of women's struggle for rights in Norway, to learn from history, and to motivate us to continue the fight.
Every day at the Gender Museum Korea, we draw inspiration from solidarity and activism of women in Korea and around the world for gender equality. We are important for society because we foster culture and history of gender equality. Our specific goals are to hold exhibitions twice a year and collaborate with emerging feminist artists to create portraits of 100 great but often overlooked women in Korean history.
I am Glenda Heckscher, and I am from Mexico. And me, as an artist, I take advantage of my art to denounce and protest against injustices. That's the case of this sculpture that is entitled Violated Woman. Her human rights have been trampled since she has been used as a weapon of war or as a prey of abuse when she wanted to cross the border searching for a better life. She's half buried. Nevertheless, there's a hand that finally will help her.
We find many women who followed unusual paths, and we show how they followed their dreams. These women can still be role models for us today.
100 Heroines, our vision is the universal recognition of women's contribution to visual arts.
We are committed to the preservation of women's archives.
For the Women Museum Henriette Bachelet from Senegal, collaboration with other women museums is important because we need to share our stories, we need to learn from each other, and together we are stronger and more efficient.